So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the question. What does double murderer O.J. Simpson have to do with the 1970 Montreal Alouettes? Think about this for a second. The San Francisco 49ers picked up O.J. Simpson in trade from the Buffalo Bills for the number one draft pick in the 1979 draft. Now that player turned out to be the excellent Ohio State prospect Tom Cousineau, who refused to sign with the Buffalo Bills and jumped to the CFL's Montreal Alouettes for double the money that the Bills were offering. So we're not going to be talking about O.J. Simpson, we're not going to be talking about the trade, but if we're going to talk about somebody that deserves our respect and recognition, of course, it's Thomas Michael Cousineau. Now, Tom Cousineau, born May 6, 1957, he was a star in NCAA and NFL and CFL. He played for full 9 pro seasons during the 1970s and 80s. Now, the linebacker played college football for Ohio State University. He was a 2-time All-American. Again, the first overall pick of the 79 entry draft, and eventually played with Cleveland and the 49ers in the NFL and put up some dynamite numbers. Now, he's also a member of the College Football Hall of Fame, being elected in their class of 2016. He's also a member of the Ohio State Varsity O Hall of Fame, inducted in 1995, and St. Edward High School Hall of Fame. Cousineau was also the recipient of the Silver Anniversary Butkus Award in 2003. Now, 6'3", 225, born in Fairview Park, May 6, 1957. He was born to, Cousineau can be considered a Francophone name, a Francophone Italian. He was born to Carol and Tom Cousineau Sr. Now, Tom Cousineau Sr. was a head football and wrestling coach at the great Lakewood, Ohio High School. Consequently, his mother did not want him to play football under the shadow of his talented father. Thus, Cousineau played high school football for nearby St. Edward High School, which is several blocks away in Lakewood. He excelled and was the most highly recruited football players in the country in his senior year. And he was also getting recognition from not only the CFL and NFL, but the World Football League at the time. He eventually graduated in 1975. Now, he was also an accomplished wrestler. And in 1975, under legendary coach Howard Ferguson, he lost to future NFL player Bob Golick from crosstown all-boys school rival St. Joseph in the Ohio State Wrestling Tournament semifinals in the heavyweight weight class. The match has been called one of the most memorable of his era, and Golick would go on to win the state title, and Cousineau would finish in third place. Now, Golick would later go on to be a 2-time All-American at heavyweight in Notre Dame, and Cousineau and Golick would eventually become teammates and good friends in the NFL with the Browns. Now, Cousineau attended Ohio State University, where he played for legendary coach Woody Hayes' Ohio State Buckeyes football team from 1975 to 1978. And I saw him play several college games at a time, really stood out for his determined play, a very, very accurate and efficient hitter. Now, during that span, Ohio State had an overall record of 36-10-2 and 28-4 in the Big Ten. They became 3-time Big Ten champs during his time there. He played 4 bowl games after each of the seasons he played, and including the Rose Bowl, Orange Bowl, Sugar Bowl, and Gator Bowl. They were a top 5 team for 36 weeks over these 4 years, and the number 1 team in the nation for 8 weeks in 1975, and ultimately finished 4th, 6th, and 12th in the final AP press polls in 75, 76, and 77, respectively. Now, because Cousineau was also a scholar, he majored in marketing. He was a consensus first-team All-American, breaking the school record with 211 tackles in a single season in 1978. I think he played 12 games that year, so you do the numbers. Again, 17.5 tackles per game. He also broke the school record for most tackles in a game against rivals Penn State in 1978 when he had 29 and was MVP of the 77 Orange Bowl. Now, Cousineau's last game for the Buckeyes was the infamous 78 Gator Bowl against Clemson, during which Coach Hayes punched Clemson linebacker Charlie Bauman in the final minutes of the game. Hayes was eventually fired the next day for the incident. Now, Cousineau still holds many of Iowa State's tackling records. As of 2016, he holds 6 of the top 10 single-game tackling records, 29 single-game tackles, since tied by fellow College Football Hall of Fame member Chris Spielman. Most solo tackles in a single game, 16 against SMU in 78. He also ranks second on both the all-time OSU tackle lists with 569, 3 behind Marcus Merrick, and on the career solo tackles list with 259. The All-American selections came in 77 and 78, and the Chicago Tribune named him Big Ten MVP in 1978. He graduated from OSU in 1979. Now in 2016, he became the 25th Ohio State player, along with 7 Buckeye coaches, to be named to the College Football Hall of Fame. Now, this is where it becomes interesting, ladies and gentlemen, made international news. He was drafted first overall in the 79 NFL entry draft by the then rebuilding Buffalo Bills, who acquired the pick as part of a package of 5 draft picks from the 49ers in the 1978 trade for O.J. Simpson. However, he never played a game for the Bills. He instead signed with the CFL's Montreal Alouettes, much to the delight of fans of both sexes. Very handsome guy, who signed him for double the money originally offered by the Bills. Now, Cousineau was a great star in the Alouettes and quarterbacked along with Glenn Weir, the defensive side of the ball, became also the Grey Cup's most valuable player in the 1979 campaign. Unfortunately, he only played in 4 games in his third season because of elbow injury, while the Alouettes collapsed. Now, he was a teammate of Biletnikoff, Billy Whiteshoe Johnson, Ferragamo, all these top players. But he was the first to arrive with Biletnikoff when the ownership was trying to get more of an international feel to the Alouettes in the hopes, possibly, of having an NFL team. Didn't work out. Now, in 1982, Cousineau wanted to return to the NFL, choosing to forgo 2 of his option years with the Alouettes. Now, the Houston Oilers attempted to sign him, but the Bills, who still held these rights, matched the offer. Now, Cleveland Browns owner Art Modell had long been interested in signing him. Cousineau was then traded from the Bills to the Cleveland Browns for a first-round draft pick, 14 overall, in the 83 NFL draft, plus a second and third round draft choice in subsequent years. Now, that first-round pick was used on future Hall of Fame quarterback Jim Kelly. Now, Cousineau eventually signed a 5-year contract for $2.5 million, the highest contract ever at the time by the Browns. Now, unfortunately, negativity reached him soon after, as in 83, he was arrested in connection with a minor collision with a police car on St. Patrick's Day. He was charged with drunk driving, improperly using traffic lanes, and not having his driver's license. He was subsequently found not guilty of the drunk driving charge, but guilty of the moving violation, as the driver's license charge was dropped. Now, during Cousineau's 4 seasons with the Browns, he led the team in tackles for 3 seasons, put up some really dynamite numbers. In 1983 season, he intercepted 4 passes and was named a second-team All-NFL by the NEA. He was also named second-team All-NFL by the AP in 84, but never made the Pro Bowl in his career. He was considered by many an overpaid disappointment in Cleveland, while Bills fans fondly remember the fact that the man who once snubbed them for the CFL was traded for Jim Kelly. Cousineau signed with the 49ers as a free agent after the 85 season, where he played 2 years as a reserve before retiring in 87. Cousineau finished his NFL career with 10 interceptions and 6.5 career sacks. Now, St. Edward inducted Cousineau to the school's Athletic Hall of Fame. His wife, Lisa, and himself have $2 of Kyle and Casey. On February 8, 2006, Cousineau also announced plans to run for a seat in the Ohio House of Representatives as a Republican in the Akron area. He won the May primary but lost the November election to Democrat Brian Williams, 58% to 42%. Now, on April 20, 2009, Cousineau joined the St. Vincent St. Mary High School football coaching staff as a linebackers coach. Cousineau then later went on to be the linebackers coach at St. Edward High School. So, I basically think Cousineau did as much as he could do with his career. There was a lot of pressure on him when he did join the CFL, but I think what happened, he had felt a connection with the CFL, because he was basically told the right things to get him in Montreal. Because if you look at, again, David Overstreet, Billy White Shoe Johnson, Vince Ferragamo, David Scott, Blitnikoff, Montreal was trying its best to be a CFL team, but also be an NFL prospect. If it were not for the machinations and negative machinations of Nelson Scalabania. But at the time, Montreal Alouettes were throwing around a lot of big contracts. And if somebody said, we'll pay double your money in Canada and you can still go to the NFL in a couple of years, frig, I'd take it. Nothing negative about, being paid for doing something you really can do. But also, he was just a reminder, he was a CFL All-Star. So one of the few players to be an All-Star in the CFL and NFL in that key area of the 1980s. But I know one thing: when you're traded for O.J. Simpson and Jim Kelly, you're going to be part of history. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the Legend of Tom Cousineau. If you like what we're doing here on our CFL Vintage podcast, please let us know. Well, when Tom Cousineau arrived in Montreal, they called him Mr. Handsome on one of the Quebec shows. I don't think they mentioned it a second time, but the women loved Tom Cousineau. A very nice guy, very genial, very good with the fans. And, you know how to show the sidelines in the NFL or CFL game? You always make sure to have a picture of Cousineau, his helmet off, smiling and joking with his teammates. It was a good time. If you were a Montreal Alouettes fan between 1974 and, unfortunately, to the Concords, there was a lot of negativity, but there was a lot of good news. We had White Shoes, we had Blitnikoff, Ferragamo, Cousineau. People were talking about us, and I'd rather people talk about the Alouettes than ignored us. Nobody gave a shit about the Rough Riders back then, besides Tom Clements and Tony Gabriel, or we had 9 marquee players at one point. Can you imagine? The other teams only had 3. Anyway, have a good day.